Well, I think that it's a very interesting movement which has been inspired, I think, very much by the events in the Middle East and the democratic passion that we saw among Iranian young people, but also around the Arab world with the youth. And I'm happy that Europe, which looks very conformist these days, very ultra-conservative in its politics, it's going back to the spirit which existed in the 1960s, you know, with the 68 movements. The social inequalities is the fact that many people are unemployed and they want to have a decent life. So they are fighting for a decent life. So this is one of the mechanisms. I think this is a very healthy reaction. It's a little bit late, but it should have come 10 years ago or 15 years ago, 20 years ago in Europe. It's a little bit late, but it's better than late than never. And I think that it's coming exactly like in the Middle East and exactly like in South Asia. It's coming from the young people, because those who are touched by new problems, I would call them, new crises, are young people. People who are from the age of, let's say, 20 to the age of 40. Young people have to fight against forms of conformism, you know. It's not, they say that they are angry, you know. I mean, they call themselves angry people, you know. Indignato? Yeah, indignato. I mean, they are angry, but I think the anger is not enough. You have to have a politics behind your anger, because it's not only a question of sentiment, it's also a question of common sense and reason, and how you rationalize this anger and you bring out a constructive program. It's not enough to go and sit in Plaza Catalunya and say that I'm angry. You have to know what you are fighting for and how you want to change things. Otherwise, we go back to the same place. I don't think that today's problem is the difference between the socialist government or the right-wing government. That's not the problem today. The problem is something beyond that, and this problem is a problem of changing values in the European scenery today, political scene. And changing values, I think only people can change that. Civic actors can change that. But when I say civic actors, I mean intellectuals, students, young people, NGOs, women's rights movements, feminists, labor movement. All these, they can change it, but they have to have a presence on the grounds. Libya is, the whole problem is around one person, Gaddafi, okay? And people trying to destroy him, okay? So in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Iran, even in Syria, the question is different, because you have a society, a civil society with a background which has fought for many, many, many years, and they have done grassroots work, you know, underground work. And this underground work, somehow it rises and it fights against an authoritarian state and tries to replace the dictator. And they have succeeded with Ben Ali in Tunisia, they have succeeded with Mubarak. I'm sure that they're going to succeed in other places. I'm sure they're going to succeed in Syria and in long term in Iran. We have to understand that people in Plaza Catalunya, they will not go in prison at night. They can go and take a shower at their house of their parents. They can go and eat freely, and they can say what they want freely, you know. I mean, what they are, the most violence that they might have is what they call the police brutality, no more than that. And I think that the police brutality in Spain is incomparable with what's going on in Damascus or in Tehran or what was in Algeria or Tunisia or Egypt. So we have to understand that this is not the same. Now, I'm against all form of military intervention. I was already against it in Iraq and Afghanistan. I think it makes things worse. I believe in humanitarian intervention, but humanitarian intervention means when you help refugees and people to get out of that country, you make safe havens for them, you send planes to take them out. And somehow, I don't believe that when you go and bomb, you know, places where Gaddafi is living, you're helping the Libyans, because Gaddafi is going to use it as today. If you do that with the Iranian government, they're going to use it as nationalistic, sentiment against against NATO, against those who have intervened. The first thing of intervention, especially for Europeans, is to be honest at the level of your own principles, which are the principles of human rights. If you are at the principle of the human rights and you believe in humanitarian intervention, you will not have Guantanamo and you will not have Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo are symptoms of military intervention and symptoms of this spirit that we want to go and bring our democracies like a gift, and they're going to unwrap it and they're going to use it. This does not work. I think that democracy is not a gift. Democracy is everyday work that you have to do. It starts from Plaza Catalunya, it ends in Baghdad. Nonviolence is there to democratize democracies, I would say. Not to kill democracies, but to democratize democracies. As for in authoritarian regimes, nonviolence is to get to preliminary rights, or in what we call the human rights, which are already an acquisition in Europe. When we talk about Iran, Iran is not only the Iranian government, Iran is the Iranian society, Iranian people, Iranian history, Iranian culture. I think we have to separate between the two. And Iranian society is a very vibrant society. It's a young society, 70% of under the age of 30, very educated. Women are very educated. You're not talking about Saudi Arabia. And it's a country which has already change in its spirit. It's not a conformist country, but the government is very conservative and conformist. And actually, I think that it's not only a political fight, it's a fight of spirits also, because you have young people who want to change the country, and you have old people, especially old clerics and very violent people who want to keep the country as it is. The young people are prepared for change. But I think that they have to maintain their nonviolent action against a very violent, cruel regime, which, unlike what's happening in Plaza Catalunya, shoots at people, kills them very easily, puts them into prison, and destroys them very easily. And millions of Iranian young people have been pushed towards brain drain and towards exile in 2 days. But I do believe that the future of the Middle East belongs to Iran. Iran is the only country in the Middle East where you have leaders who are women. And women actually have a lot of power, especially in civil society. So there is not just one figurehead. There are many different people and who represent it. And I think this is a very healthy thing, because it helps the society to be in dialogue with itself. I think it's a very interesting country, and eventually I would like at some point to return to Iran and to help actually changes in Iran. But also my function has always been intellectual. I'm not a politician, my involvement in politics has been always as an intellectual, as an intellectual engagé, a very committed intellectual. But I do believe that through my teaching, through my writings, I can help change things, and eventually I'm very hopeful about Iran's future.